raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John Macaskill and Will Schneider. Here we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives solve some of life's complex challenges through understanding the practices of mindfulness and how they can help. Each episode is in an environment free of judgment and criticism, with a focus on authenticity and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Get ready. We're going to dive into a tricky topic today, the news, media, and your consumption of it. And we're going to do our best within this episode to shed our mindful light to help you understand how the news works, what are their motivations, and what are the tactics used to keep you hooked and coming back for more. And finally, what to do about it. John F. Kennedy says, "We are not afraid to entrust the American people with the unpleasant facts, foreign ideas, alien philosophies, and competitive values. For a nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people." So we're going to help. We are here to help shed some light on the truth and hopefully eliminate some of the fear and anxiety that the news might be creating for you. Welcome back to Men Talking Mindfulness, everybody. Today is our season 6 finale. Can
Crazy.
you believe it? I know, right? I'm okay. I'm co-host Will Schneider. I'm joined by my friend over there and co-host Jon Macaskill. He's over there in Colorado Springs, and I'm coming to you from New York City once again. Today, we're going to examine the following aspects about the news and your consumption of it as we look at what is the news. Is media consumption worth it? Why is it so addictive? How to remain objective? And what do we do about misinformation? And many more things we're going to kind of discuss in the casual conversation today. But John, it's great to see you. I can't believe we're getting to the end of season 6 today.
That's
over like
nuts.
I don't know, what are we, 100 and some episodes? How many downloads we have?
100 and this is 130 full episodes. We've got our meditations and some short snippets in there, but this is 130 full episodes. The end of season 6. Journey of journeys for us, so we're very excited for that. And we're working on a book too. We'll have that out. Ideally, we'll have that out by the end of Thanksgiving, so that you guys can purchase that for Cyber Monday, and you can get it out there for Christmas gifts for your friends and family. And it is. I mean, we're going to be we raw, uncut, and unapologetic. The title of the book is Mindfulness for Assholes and Those Surrounded by them. So
exactly, perfect holiday gift for the assholes in your life, right?
Either for the assholes in your life or those surrounded by them. So over and above that, we've got a free mindfulness newsletter. And if you'd like to subscribe to our newsletter, or rather a workbook, but with that, you get our newsletter. If you want the workbook and the newsletter, simply text mindful, the word mindful, to 33777. And then you get the free workbook, and you'll be added to our mailing list. And you'll get a link to a 21 day mindfulness course that's only $9 if you're interested in that. Lots of stuff here. So simply text mindful to 33777. And then we're trying to grow our YouTube. So if you like what we're doing, if you like the show, and if you like what the show is doing, the impact that we are bringing to people's lives, please subscribe and hit that little bell so that you know when something new comes out on YouTube. And the link is simply youtube.com/@ Men Talking Mindfulness. And that's the @ symbol, Men Talking Mindfulness. And then if you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review. Because that helps us to grow the show, and share it with your network. All right, so all that said and done, we're going to do what we do every show. We're going to kick it off with a simple breathing exercise, and I'll lead that. Simple 5-breath breathing exercise. So go ahead and get comfortable, whatever that looks like and feels like for you. And just bring your attention to your breath, noticing the rise and fall of your chest. We'll begin by exhaling together, emptying your lungs, bring your navel to your spine. And now holding empty, deep breath in, filling from the bottom to the top. Hold full at the top and relax. Letting it go, holding empty at the bottom. Deep breath in. Hold at the top. and let it go. And as you let that go, let go of the stress and the tension that you're feeling, that you're holding empty at the bottom. Deep breath in, filling from the bottom all the way to the top. Hold and relax. Release, release, release. 2 more. Deep breath in. Hold and let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Last one. Deep breath in. Filling all the way to the top. Hold and release. And as you release, start to roll your shoulders, roll your neck, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. And if your eyes were closed, go ahead and blink them open. And here we are. Here we are. We're going to be talking about how news media, it can be great for you. Obviously, we want to stay informed. Absolutely. But when you spend all your time consumed by news media, not consuming necessarily because you get consumed by it, right? Then that's causing you stress. And we want to talk about how that news media is causing you stress or can cause you stress, and then what to do about it. So Will, I know this is a topic that you've become recently very passionate about. Let's jump in, man.
Well, I've been very passionate about this, John, for a while, and so I might lose my shit a little bit here as we kind of move through this episode, because it is, it's as I continually, become more mindful, remain more objective, always seeking the truth, which is part of that mindfulness path. Like I run into the media so much and how it's just continually manipulating our minds. I think one thing, if you control the message, you control the masses, and we're under a constant barrage of, I wouldn't say it's completely factual, the news, in a lot of ways. Like, they hide stuff from you in order to support a narrative, in order to promote more consumerism. One thing that we can talk about here is, like, they really are trying to create a void inside of you, and this is what I feel. And that void is what they're, because if you think about it, there's they have all these atrocities that are happening somewhere in our country or somewhere around the world. It usually has to do around like blood and death and horrific pictures of, people being killed, or, cops being assaulted, or other people being assaulted. And it's like, and constantly keep us in this state of fear, which is, also driven by anxiety. And we're not we're not in our body. We're continually being told a story, a fiction, a narrative, and we're continually emotionally manipulated. And what do they show after all these horrible atrocities? They have like a beautiful food commercial in which they're starting to tug on another basic need of ours, which is survival. So there's a lot to talk about and unpack here, John. So
for sure, man.
Where should we? What are your
well, I'll come.
Around
yeah,
this?
exactly.
So what are the things that you can get you all encumbered with the news and stuff?
Well, what is the saying? Like, if you're not paying for a product, then you are the product, right?
Yeah.
And the news, they pay, or rather, they get paid by how many hours we consume their news, and what sells, right? What gets us to watch the news?
Right.
Very rarely is it good news.
Right.
Very rarely is it good news. Most of the time, what sells, what gets people glued to the TV, what gets people glued to their phones to consume the news there, what gets people glued to their radios to consume the news there. So, like, theoretically, you could consume the news the entire time you are awake. From TV to our phones to our radios, you could consume the news. Like, I know people have it playing in the background in their office. They have it playing back in the background on their computer in their office. And I used to do that because I always felt that I had a responsibility as a military member to stay informed. And I still believe that. But I think that we've crossed the threshold of being informed, and we are getting to the part where we are manipulated. So I feel that, we are, we get our dopamine fixes, and I know we're going to do an episode on dopamine next season, the molecule of more. We get our dopamine fixes by watching the news. We feel good staying informed, but we also, there's almost sometimes a feeling of feeling like you're better than somebody else. Like, oh, well, my situation is better than that. It's kind of like reality TV, right? So much of reality TV sells because it's making somebody else look worse than you. And you kind of hate watch it. And so the news has almost become that way. And now with this, I'm not going to name networks, but you're going to know who I'm talking about. There are networks that are out there that are bashing the other, right? And those networks have tied themselves to a political party. And so when they bash the other network, they're bashing the other political party here in the States. And it's just become very divisive. So I wish that the news did a few things. One, that it reported the news without any kind of spin. And then two, that it reported some good news more often, because I think there's a lot of good stuff happening in this world that we need to celebrate and be aware of, or rather be aware of and celebrate. And it's just not there. Those are my thoughts on the news, man.
Yeah, well, if it bleeds, it leads. This has always been a mantra for them. And it's like, it's over sensationalism, like all the time, sensationalize the news. And I mean, it's like let's just talk about the manipulation and how it's manipulated, or how it manipulates us. I think it'd be a good place to start. And the things that come up for me is how we can be emotionally manipulated is really where it starts, right? They put us in a state of fear, of scarcity by continually. I mean, just think about like what you mentioned. It's like there's a lot of good that's happening in the world all the time. Right. And the news puts up that like 0.1% of all the horror that is happening, all the atrocities that are happening in our neighborhoods, like on the world stage. And it's awful to see these things. I mean, you can't really deny these videos in a lot of ways. But it really, it hits a core belief, a core system that's deep within us of wanting to be safe, wanting to look to our neighbor and connect with our neighbor in a meaningful way. And when we begin to connect with our neighbor, connect with our community, like we can solve a lot of problems by kind of, reaching across the aisle, if you will, or like, or coming together with conversation. I mean, conversation is a big part of what democracy is all about, a conversation and compromise. And by continually, I mean, I feel you got to continually find an enemy all the time. So that enemy, depending on the news cycle, is your neighbor. It's red versus blue. It's like, the Middle East versus, the West. And they're always trying to have you pick a side, because then they keep you in that state of fear, or instead of that, I've been talking a lot about on the show, common humanity. It's like, we all want the best for our families. We all want the best for ourselves. We all want the best for our community. And the news, it continually picks apart and shows us like all the horrors, all the atrocities that are continually, happening across the world sometimes. Yeah, yes. I mean, bad shit happens. Like, but if you ask, if you really think about like, so watch one little piece of bad news and you think like, oh my God, like they make it seem like that's happening like right outside your door. Where if you really ask in your community, it's like, do you know anybody that's been a part of this kind of violence or that part of violence, or have ever like experienced something that is like this kind of atrocity? And the answer is going to be no most of the time. Bad shit happens to good people and bad stuff happens all the time, but it's like, it just, I hate that it's constantly like, it's always happening, always right now, scarcity, fear, and it's just a way that's how they manipulate us. They've like, I have here amygdala hijack, right? The amygdala is the fear part of the brain, puts us in that fight or flight, way of being. And if we're constantly seeing, people being killed or, like being robbed or whatever, or war around the world. It's like, where are we going to go? And neurologically, we're going to go into this fight, flight, or freeze mode. And then we know that how many times we talk on the show that it is not the best state of being. It's not in the right state of mind. We're out of our executive function, driven by fear and all the things that come up with fear and all the emotional, cocktails that come along with fear. And it's just like, we're not present anymore.
Right.
And that's when we get manipulated.
They're fear mongers, right? They're spreading the fear, and what does that do to us? You mentioned the amygdala hijacking.
Yeah,
it does things to us mentally, physically, emotionally. Like the mental impact. What does it cause? It causes this fear, and that fear of the future, of what might happen to us, but also a sadness. Okay, so we've seen what's happened to other people, and if you're an empath of any sort, and you watch the news and you see these tragedies, what's that going to cause in you? A sadness. Yes, it's going to cause you an awareness. And Will and I are not saying that you should not be aware.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we need to be aware of what's going on in the world. But we're saying that a lot of the time the news is manipulated to focus on the negative, the disasters, the conflict, the crime, the political tension and controversies, right? I mean, that's what gets attention. But constant exposure to this is going to cause you that anxiety and that depression. It also mentally causes a level of desensitization. Wow, I'm struggling with
desensitivity.
Desensitization. Wow.
Desensitization. There you go.
Tization. Wow. Okay. So for some reason I got tongue tied on that one, but
good.
But yeah, just regular exposure. You're going to get desensitized to these things as well. So at some point, maybe something in your life is going to happen, but you're going to say, you know what, I'm less sensitive to that thing. So, okay, check this out. You remember the Columbine shooting, right? So I live here in Colorado, and that happened in what, 98, 99?
98,
yeah, somewhere around there. And that was like unheard of, right, back then.
Trench coat mafia, remember these kids?
Yeah, exactly. Mafia, and this is something that you and I, that happened 25 years ago, and you and I remember it very clearly. But now, and this is the unfortunate state of the world, absolutely, and I'm not minimizing any of these school shootings, but now we hear about mass shootings fairly frequently, to the point to where we are almost desensitized to it. So, we get stressed, we get anxious, but now we're getting desensitized. And then we're also just getting information overload, right? We constantly get noise thrown at us all through the day. Social media, news media, work, email, text messages. We're just constantly bombarded, and we're getting worn out. We're getting information overload. And with that 24/7 news cycle, I mean, hell, when you're watching the news on one of these major stations, you've got the main news topic that's in one square. You've got another news topic that's in another square. You've got the weather in a bar at the bottom, and then you've got the stock market. You've got like so much information on one screen. Talk about information overload. That if you just take a snapshot of that one screen, that's too much to process at one time. So we're really doing things to ourselves mentally by consuming this much news, this much at the time. But then over and above that, we've got the mental aspect, the mental impact. We've got the physical impact, we have a stress. So that this stress, what does that do to our body? Well, it weakens our immune system. It causes us to be in a constant fight or flight stance, right? Hey, it's tough for us to go out in town because now we've seen this bad news. We constantly think that's going to happen to us, right? And that cortisol, as there's more cortisol, then that's going to increase our body fat. I mean, there's tons of physical impacts. And then obviously the emotional impacts, the fear and worry. What does that do to you personally, but also what does that do to those around you?
Right. What does it prevent us from doing as well, right? What does it prevent us from doing?
Absolutely, 100%. So there's a lot to unpack here, man. And then we also want to talk about ways to mitigate how the news affects you, but also mitigate how, or rather change how you consume this news media, the 24/7 news cycle.
Yeah. Well, they're just like the news has been slowly eroding over the last, 10 years or something like that. I mean, Trump and all his shenanigans of kind of like, and just the way, I mean, it's just all of it, like the reaction to Trump in the news media and Trump himself. And it's like, who knows what to believe anymore. And I know I'm mentioning a very, a sensational character here, but it's like, I just don't, it's just so hard to watch anymore. And I get so easily pissed off. Like, I know I mentioned this in the show before. It's like the only time I don't have news here. I don't have a TV in my place. So I don't stream the news at all. Like there was a time when I would not read the news on my phone, but it kind of slowly creeped its way back in over the last 6 months or something like that. So I read The Guardian typically, which I would think is pretty central, but it's like, who knows anymore. But it's like, it's like I'm kind of addicted to watch, sadly, like the demise of a human being sometimes, and it's like, and I know that I'm doing this, and part of me is like cheering on, like, oh, please get this person out of our society. Like it's such a menace. And I know other people have others' opinions, and that's perfectly fine. But it's like, I don't know, I judge people by their actions and what they do and not what they say all the time. And I think that's one thing. Like, how do we get to truth, John? Like, how do we that's the tricky part here, I think. Like where do we begin to find the truth? How do we ground into the truth? I think this is super important, why these practices of mindfulness and meditation and breathing helps us to get out of that amygdala hijack, helps us to get out of, or at least have the opportunity to get out of the, the fight, flight, freeze, and, the scarcity and the fear, and kind of get into a place of get in our body, get in the world, instead of completely being, we're just all the media. It's just a story that they keep telling again and again and again and again. Like, and what is it like? What I continually see on the news, it's just like the world is ending tomorrow. Everybody's going to be a part of violence or experience violence in some way. The world is not a safe place. There's a threat around every corner. And then they just continually, like, one day I was watching the news and I was so pissed off, John. Like, I can't believe that the media is allowed to do this, that our government allows, we the people allow the media to do this, like showing a cop. And I saw this, they must have showed this in this one news clip that went on for like 4 minutes or something like that, about some cop in New York getting hit over the head with a bottle and like being accosted or something like that, which is horrible to see. And I've seen other like, this man pulling out a bat and like hitting a woman over the head, or, in New York City, people being pushed on the tracks here and stuff like that. I'm in New York City all the time, been here 20 years. And I've never had a problem, like never, ever had a problem. And yeah, stuff like that happens. We're also in a city of like 8.5 million people. So shit's going to go down. All different types of people, all different types of, ethnic backgrounds, all different types of socioeconomic backgrounds as well. But just to continually put that story in my head, and it's tough to forget when you see something that's so incredibly sensational and just so incredibly triggering to see an older woman get hit over the head with a man with a bat. Like, oh, right. I don't want to see that. But then it's difficult to let go of that. So I come back from the gym where it's a place of health. I'm working out, exercising my body, but what about the health of my mind? And I just watch the news, and it's just like I get more stressed, I get more anxious. I start, an internal conversation. I would have said it like this, or I would have done something like this, or why didn't they ask this question? And I just get wrapped up in the manipulation of the news.
Doesn't your gym like have a whole bunch of news TVs up with the news going the whole time?
There's
like
I counted 30. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we go to the gym to work out and get away from the stresses of the world, and then you have 25 TVs up where you cannot not watch it, right? It's
Right.
there in your face. It's kind of getting forced down your throat.
Exactly.
And it's tough. So how does mindfulness play into this? You talked about the amygdala hijacking, right?
Right.
The amygdala hijacking that we get, like you see these atrocities, and then the atrocities are what's replayed and replayed and replayed, right? Yes, again,
Right.
we want to be aware that some of these things happen. We want to be aware that that there is violence. We don't want to be completely ignorant and blissful walking around, but we also don't want to be hyper vigilant. So there's a happy balance. So what does that look like? So you see these videos, and they're going to replay them. So if it's a 5-second clip of somebody being bashed over the head, they're going to play it 25 times during a 3-minute news report. And you're going to watch that 25 times. And now what's happening is you're actually literally wiring your brain to see that in society more and more, because now you've seen that 25 times over.
Yeah.
But
and now I'm looking over my shoulder too. Like when I'm on the subway, I'm like, oh fuck, dude, I'm pissed because I can't believe I'm looking over my shoulder. Like a place that a city I love, the city I trust. Again, shit happens. And it's just like now, like because of the news showing that again and again and again and again, and then I'm getting phone calls from people, that don't live in the city. Like, are you okay? My God, New York seems so bad. I'm like, it's the city. I mean, it's like,
right.
Apparently, I worked with this woman a while ago, John. She lived in New York for like 35 years, and I just saw her like 6 months ago. And she had just left New York to move to Florida. And she's like, New York right now is nothing like it was in the 80s. I was like, exactly. Apparently it was much, much worse here in the 80s, like, awful. This is just one example of how the news, manipulates the message and our minds in order to say, like, New York isn't a safe place.
Right.
It's just like, here's like more crime over here, crime over here, crime over there.
No place is safe.
No place is safe. And it's also, and then they take it a step further, right? They add the political. It's like, oh, well, it's a Democratic mayor, so of course it's unsafe because they're trying to, defund the police or take guns out of whatever. And it's like, and they just use every single like opportunity to promote their agenda.
Yeah, depending on which network it is, you're going to have a different agenda, right?
Exactly.
It's a Democrat governor, so this is bad. It's a Republican president, blah blah blah. It's just going to go back and forth, and that's so mindfulness comes into play. One, you see that bashing over the head,
right?
Your amygdala gets hijacked. You empathize with that person being physically assaulted. You need to take a few breaths and realize that that's just a microcosm of all the news that is out there. The bad news again is going to be highlighted more and more because that's what sells. That's what sells, and that's what people talk about. But you know what? There's a lot of good news out there. So maybe if you see something bad on the news, maybe go and find out what good is out there. What good is happening? There's plenty of people doing good things. There's nonprofits, there's charities, there's organizations that are doing good things in this world, and we don't hear about it often enough. I mean, Will and I were just at a New York City gala for the Children of Fallen Patriots 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they are doing phenomenal work, but you just don't hear about it as often as you hear about the bad stuff, right?
It's not as sexy.
Yeah, it's not as sexy. So, one, I think, like, be active in looking for the good news. Try to find the good news. 2, take a breath. Like literally take a breath right there and focus on that breath and try to focus on what it is you're experiencing in watching that news and notice why you're feeling that. And because you're feeling that, now you realize, okay, well, they're gonna try to sell me something right now. They're gonna try to sell me on an angle. They're gonna try to sell me, they're gonna try to make me fearful. And then, because what we just touched on, one news network is going to say it's the Democrats. The other news network is going to say the Republicans. Try to find the middle. try to find the truth,
Right.
because you got to understand that these networks are funded by a certain group of people, and the other
huge
networks
corporations
are funded by
worth billions of dollars trying to make more billions of dollars.
Yeah, and drive their agenda, not just like they are literally trying to skew your mind so that you vote a certain way that's going to benefit them. So there is a lot of politics in the news, and we have to be aware of that, and not be driven by the news. Do your homework, find out where the truth lies. So in saying that, I don't mean, hey, you need to watch CNN, you need to watch Fox News, you need to watch MSNBC, you need to watch all the networks, because all that's going to do is confuse you. Right. But literally do your homework. Also, that's just going to stress you out that much more, because the news, a lot of the news these days is yelling, like literally yelling at they'll bring somebody on and they totally bait these people that come on for interviews just so that they can yell at them.
Right.
That's the last thing.
You're wrong. I'm right. Like you're an idiot. Like, I have the truth. You know what I mean? How could you think that? Like, and it's also, John, like I was researching for this topic. A lot of these issues are incredibly complex. And if you look at the way politicians address these things, or the way the news address these things, or the way they're spoken of, they just always try to have one little like tagline, like one way to solve the problem. Like an example would be, our energy problem across the United States. You know what I mean? Like one thing that was, for the last several election cycle, drill, baby, drill. Like that's going to solve all of our problems just by drilling for more oil. It's like, yes, that might help. Maybe you don't agree with that. Maybe there's another way, but it's one thing. And if you don't adhere to that one mantra, then you're right or you're left, and I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm going to go into my silo, and you're wrong, and you're an idiot, and you're ignorant. And it's just like, we just shut down instead of realizing like it's a complex issue. These are all like, all the shit going down in the Middle East, they're complex issues that require like a broader conversation than you can put in a 7-minute fucking news cycle. Right. And what's that 7 minutes news cycle doing anyway? All they're trying to do is to steer you in the same thinking, right? By manipulating you in the same fearful way, but talking about it and using a different thread, if you will, in order to manipulate you, and just basically tell the same story. There's nothing new about the news. Like I haven't seen anything new on the news in a long fucking time. There are some stuff going right down in the news with all these documents and stuff like that. It's like fascinating right now, this time in our history and our political history. Like, I feel we're in a good place, John. I'm glad we're having this discussion.
Me too.
Because we like there is a truth out there, and I think one of the ways that we can start to find that truth, John, is to shut off the fucking news, right, and get out in your neighborhood. Yeah. If you think like and I say this to people, like I've my family is, they vote right, they vote left. Some of them are like, oh, the last election was stolen, this and that. I'm like, why don't you get involved in the election process and see how it works? Instead of you thinking like, oh, is this way? You actually know how incredibly, the whole checks and balance system that is actually in the voting process, how many people are involved, how many people, the checks and balances that go along. Like, if you're afraid that, this is an example that like, our democracy is being hijacked by this and that, go get involved. Go to town meetings, like, get out in your community, realize that the world is a good place. Like, the more that we continually isolate ourselves and just watch all this, this emotion and manipulated media all the time, it's like, what are you supposed to think? How are you supposed to feel the world is? And then it's like, how are we behaving to do that? Like we consume more, we buy more shit we don't need, and buy more shit we probably already have. In order to feel better about ourselves, because like we're getting all depressed, what do? We start consuming alcohol and pornography and like sugar, and it's like, and we're just, it's just sad. We're trying to fill this insatiable emptiness that they're creating in us, and the only way to fill that emptiness, to fill that void you're feeling that they're creating because of this story that they're continually putting in your mind is to be a better consumer, is to buy the stuff from the advertisers that are feeding these media corporations, like whatever it is. It's like, another car, new shoes, like, like more chemicals to fucking make your house feel, fresher. And like, I see these Febreze commercials.
Or medicine,
or medicine.
right,
it's like, exactly. It's like,
are,
don't exercise. Yeah. Exercise doesn't matter. Your diet doesn't matter. Take this pill and you're going to be, more functional, more sane, more this, more that. But even like as they read all the fucking
side effects,
oh, you're going to shit your pants, you're going to throw up. You know what I mean? It's like, but this drug's going to be great. It's like, and constant manipulation, constant manipulation. And I just think the best thing, just turn it off. Go ahead.
Exactly. So I've actually started watching very little news. I won't watch the news. I will read it. Right. And I will be very selective in what I read, and how much time I spend informing myself. Because again, it's like email, right? You're sitting in front of your email and it's the end of the day, and like this happened one time when I was at work, and there were some kids, not kids, they were full grown men, but they were working, and I went up to them. I was like, "Hey guys, what are you guys doing here? What are you still doing here? It doesn't look like you're really working." They're like, "Well, we're waiting for the next email to come in." I was like, "You're waiting for the next email to come in?" And now since then, I've looked around at different workspaces, and I will see people literally waiting for an email to come in just so that they can respond. Well, that's exactly how the news is. The news is there's always going to be new news. And when you watch the 24/7 news cycle, within the 30 minutes that they report on everything that's happened, then they're going to add something new in, and you're like, okay, what did I miss? What did I miss? And you're going to continually get sucked into that. So I think, ways to cut back. Let's talk about that. So I've stopped watching the news. I'm very selective on what I watch, what I read, and what I listen to. So, and that has actually quite literally changed my stress levels. Like,
there you go.
And during the elections, I try to limit it even more, and be more selective in what I read and learn, because I don't want to be fed a bunch of BS. So, what can you do to reduce this stress? What can you do to reduce your addiction? Because some of us, just like social media, are in fact addicted to news media. Yeah. Well, we can do that. We can set those boundaries, right? Set those boundaries. So like maybe limit your news intake to a certain time during the day, rather than just leaving it playing in the background all day long.
Right.
Then, be selective. So, choose those sources that you feel are trusted sources and are not bought by various corporations or various political entities. Find those selective sources and use those. Don't try to compare Fox News to CNN to MSNBC and everything else. Find a trusted source and go with that. Yeah. And then, what we've talked about before, I was going to say go to the gym, but you got to be selective in which gym you go to, because a lot of these gyms are going to have TVs with the news blaring. And then, we've talked about the importance of support before. Having support, whether that's, you notice that you're being stressed out by the news, and even stopping the news has not helped you to relax. Maybe go out and seek some professional support, mental health care support, and then take action, man. Get out there, get out in the community, get out and help with the voting process, like Will mentioned. Get out and see the real world and not what we're being told the world is.
Yeah, go volunteer, or something like that. Like really, I think we need one of the big things that the problems that we're experiencing as a society right now in the United States, and exacerbated by the media, is our lack of connection to one another. Like this is, I feel, at an all-time low. Like if you, and it's just, I feel like it's getting worse. Like in the sense of like the younger generations are so incredibly hooked to their phones. And, you know, and like we didn't even really, so the news media, yes, but what about all the media that is consumed via social media? Like
for sure,
that is like another source of stress, another void, you know, that is created inside of you. That hole, and that void again, it's like you're not enough, you're never going to get enough, and the only way you're going to get enough is to feed that emptiness with more stuff or another post or more likes or more comments. You know, and like, and then, you know, and then you buy more, whatever, new sunglasses, new clothes, like, you know, you're going some incredible vacation, you're just constantly taking like, hey, look at me, I'm over here, like I look good, like, you know, it's you know, it's just like, I can't believe this is the state of our society right now, to be honest with you. And, you know, you mentioned that, you know, I think you can, what would, we can make a challenge out there for our listeners. What if you didn't do the news for a week? What if you like take an inventory of how you're feeling right now, take an objective reflection, and maybe write down like, how does the news make you feel? You know, I mean, like how does it make you feel? Right? Maybe that's just list like 5-8 things. You know, listen, you know, maybe get very specific as far as like what news cycles like really rile you up. And then if you just like let it go for a week, you know, or 2 weeks, and then notice how you feel throughout the week. Are you going to be more, you'll probably be more grounded. You'll be more relaxed. You know, you won't be, you know, have that subtle anxiety and threat and fear in the background. That's like, think about all that little stuff, John. We don't really, it might not be in the forefront of our mind, but because it's so deeply beaten into us by, if you're continually watching the news, it's like, how is that informing our connections, the way we listen to people, the questions that we ask, the choices that we make, you know, the way that we step into the world, the way we talk to our neighbors, you know, how do we function at our jobs with all this fear and all this scarcity? Right. You know, it's just a non-stop, vicious emotional cycle that the news keeps us in. And just to eliminate all of it, not reading it, not watching it, not YouTubing it, like not podcasting it. Right? What if you just don't? What if you do something and instead, what do you want to replace that with? Well, maybe that's the time you get out in nature a little bit more, go for a walk instead of watching the news. Maybe you get to the gym a little bit more. Maybe you pick up a book and read, you know, one of the great classics or something like that. That's kind of life affirming and real and helps you to realize that how incredible humanity is. You know, reading a biography of a great man or a great president or a great leader or something like that. Like there's such, you know, incredible like media out there that can really help you realize that, like, you know, humanity is good. People are still good at their core. And for whatever reason, I don't even understand, John, like if nobody wins when everything is destroyed. I mean, right. Nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody fucking wins. And it's like, so I don't even understand why the news does that. I mean, it's just like,
it's money, man.
It's just like money. Yeah. Short-term gains, short-term. It's like quarterly. I guess like, you know, most companies work off or you know, or boards work off quarterly revenue. And it's just like, got to hit our goal, got to hit our goal. And like, how about this? Like, here's some fucking truth that came out with that Dominion voting machine thing that they sued Fox, because Fox was like, I mean, now they're on public record because of the discovery process, as they were getting close to going to court and like fighting this out in court for like $1.6 billion or $1.25 billion or something like that to being sued for. And Fox ended up settling because, you know, they were exposed that they got to a point during like all this, like, the stuff with the last election, that they were trying to please the audience, right, instead of reporting the facts, and that came out of emails, like, and it's like, and this is a news organization that we should trust with the truth, right? That they should be. I mean, we're like, why isn't also the FCC being like, you know, coming out and be like, you know what, like you have crossed your journalistic integrity. You know, you're way out of bounds here as far as like, you know, you're hurting the society. And we just, I know I'm going a little bit of rant here, but I just can't believe that there's not more checks and balances in the system of how we're doing things. Like, we're supposed to be a government of the people, for the people, we the people. And why are we letting such a small percentage of people, right, manipulate, how we are, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how we're doing things in society,
Right?
And for what short-term gains, and for what long-term potential side effects. It's like,
Indeed, and I know you touched on social media, and we could do a whole separate show on social media. Maybe we
it's
will.
also media too. So keep going, right? This is also media. This is
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
a lot
for
of
sure.
people are on their phone. There's a lot of media on social media, like Politico. I watch a little bit. Like, there's other, shit that. Go ahead.
There's absolutely a lot of people. I mean, I'll be honest. Sometimes I use social media as my news, and
Right.
that's neither here nor there. Well, it is, but it's not necessarily positive or negative. But what I've found also is you talked about on your phone or on the computer, you go to the various news outlets, and there's like a blending of news media and social media. Like, if you go on these various news outlets, there's a comment section, right? There's a news article, and you scroll down to the bottom, and there's a comment section. And people get sucked into those comment sections, just like they get sucked into the comment section on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, and they will end up having a little fight with someone that they don't even know on a social media comment section, or rather a news media comment section. But what that does is that shows the news outlet that you are on that site for that much longer, and they are paying for your attention. And as Dr. Seth Hickerson says in his My Steady Mind program, where your attention goes, your energy flows. And if you pay so much attention to those comment sections, you are going to be drained. You're going to be drained by the end of the day. Yep. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be worn out.
Right.
So, man,
you're wasting your time as well.
100% wasting your time. Yep. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're like, oh man, I didn't get through X, Y, and Z's on my to-do list because I just don't have enough time. Really? Do you really not have enough time, or did you just waste your time?
Are you really that fucking busy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you really that busy? Like, think about it. Like, I have friends like, oh, I can't practice. Right. And I'm like, you read the entire New York Times every day, which takes like 2.5 hours, to read. And I think, I mean, New York Times, whatever you can feel about that, like, they used to be a great paper, and I think that, they have a lot of good writing. Like, New York Times is pretty awesome, for the most part. But it's just like, you can't take 15 minutes to go for a walk, to breathe, to meditate, to go to the gym. Like, and it's like, that's another thing, John, it becomes a habit. Like, it's baked in to our society, and it doesn't have to be. Like, anyone listening to the show, go on a news diet for a week, see how you feel. Right.
Yeah. News fast.
It's like, leave us a review on that. Go on a news fast, all news. Like, and it might take like cutting, getting all the apps off your phone for the news, because it's so easy to just like, oh, let's just see what's going on with the latest thing. Notice the drama that you want to be attached to. Like, we're just, at part of our DNA, John, as human beings in this planet, is story.
Yeah.
Story is part of our DNA. And when you can tell a story that, that takes us on an emotional ride, boom, like, you're going to continually hook people. And that's the news is doing. It's like, they start shit too. Like, I was like watching something the other day, and I think they create so many of the problems, so much of the violence, so much of the fear, so much of the conversation, by doing like little shit like this. It's like, to come back, I mean, because he's just an incredible news cycle all the time. This whole document thing with Trump, the news I was watching, I'm at the fucking gym doing my treadmill for 25 minutes and just getting all pissed off, like, as I try to work out on the treadmill. And the blurb on the thing was, can Trump pardon himself? I'm like, oh my God, like, why do you have to put that thought in my head? If he gets convicted, he becomes president. It's like, any part of himself. Just like, it's like, why is this important right now? Yes, I can see why that might be an interesting comment to make, but it just feeds the dragon. It just feeds more of that manipulation, feeds that sensationalism. And I think that's super key. it's like all of this is so incredibly sensationalized. And once you realize that, that it is, and it's for a very particular purpose, like, I don't think there's just not a lot of need for it anymore, John. There's a lot of also alternative news sources out there. There's a lot of great on Substack. There's a lot of great podcasts out there that actually have, like, a conservative and a, and more of a liberal. And so they're really, like, talking and trying to find that center line or that center space, like, really having a conversation and really, kind of talking about, left and right side, because it's right. Like, but it's always in the middle. Like, we're here, all of us in the middle, and we need to figure shit out from the middle. It can't just be one or the other.
Agreed, man. Agreed. Yeah. Now, I do want to come back and just talk about, there's absolutely benefits to the news. But it can definitely cross a line, like you said. It's a lot of media sources have crossed that line. But I mean, you think back to, what was it, 2010, 2011, the Arab Spring, right? The Arab Spring, a lot of that was driven by social media and news media. And there's a lot of great things that came from that in the Middle East. There's a lot of good things that do come from the news, for sure. By staying informed, you can maybe start to grow your company, maybe understand investment trends and things like that. There's a lot of good things that can come from watching the news and staying informed. But I liked how you said sometimes the news is created by the media. I mean, it makes me think of, there was a James Bond, I don't know, probably 15 years ago, maybe more now, where one guy controlled all the news outlets, and he actually would go and create something terrible where there, I think he acted like he was a Chinese ship rescuing American sailors, and he ended up shooting these American sailors, and then he reported on it that the Chinese, killed these American sailors. And granted, that's a James Bond film, but how far is it from the truth as far as the news being created by the news media? So we have to, I think, stay very objective in our consumption of the news media. Not only the consumption of it, but where we're consuming it. And that's that is being mindful. And by doing that, you can reduce their hold on you, reduce how much stress they're bringing into your life, reduce maybe how much crap it is you're buying, so that you can fill those voids, like Will talked about. I mean, there's so much that they are doing by controlling the news. They're controlling your life. They're controlling your purse strings. They're controlling like every aspect of your life. And once you develop an opinion that is so skewed by the news, it's hard to trust anyone. I know one of the rules that we have in our families, both my wife's family and my family, is that we will not discuss news. And we will not discuss politics. And we will not discuss religion, because those are such hot topics, and they are so divisive. And I love my families, both my wife's family and my family, and I don't want what the news is reporting on to cause a wedge to be driven into our relationships. I know people who have taken what the news has reported so much to heart that they have disowned parts of their family. And hey, that person voted for such and such. I can't believe that. I'm not going to talk to them anymore. And that's just gross. That's not where we want to be. We don't want the news control. That's not American. And guess what? You know what? If they did vote for such and such, you can still have a conversation with them. Exactly. You can still. They are still. Chances are they're still good people at heart. I mean, I've got this shirt on right here. It says "Be kind" on it. And I think we need to be kind with everyone. And the news causes us sometimes to not be kind. So Man,
What
I
do
think
we?
we've gone a long way. We've beaten up a lot. We've beaten up the news a
Yeah,
lot
well,
here.
it's like, I think we got to remind, like, need to remind ourselves, or we need to remind our listeners that just like, we're all good people. I mean, obviously there's, that 1% again that are shitheads that are wrapped up in the wrong story, that, maybe had a horrible childhood and are continually acting out from that childhood, or, has, just like, there's usually something. There's not a lot of psychopaths out there, is what I'm trying to say, John. You still, like, overall,
Yeah.
people we have inside, and if you practice, if you begin to meditate, if you take time, to disconnect, and like maybe when you're on a news diet, instead of watching the news for 30 minutes, go meditate, go walk, go breathe, do something holistic for yourself. Do something, one of these mindfulness practices that we continually talk about on this show, and get back to yourself. Get back to the truth that is inside of every single one of us. And when you begin to sit and understand that truth and begin to experience that truth out in the world of like, we all have, like, I know this, John, I see it in so many, all the students that I see, regardless of what kind of stuff that they come in the studio with, or, we all have this heart that wants to light up. We all have this heart that wants to connect. We all have the same basic needs of love, connection, and belonging. And, you mentioned, I have family members that it's like, I've heard them say, oh, we can't talk to him about this. He's on the other side. And I was like, wait. Like, last time I checked, we're all citizens of this republic. We're not, like, there's no sides here. We're all Americans, we the people. And I think we need to remember that. We need to, like, as we continually continually exposed to more of this divisiveness. Because if they, again, you control the message, you control the masses. You control the masses, you can manipulate them to buy whatever you want. And Exactly. They're always going to go into that binary place, right, left, up, down, like black, white. It's just nonstop, picking apart, taking sides. And it's just like, instead of really talking about the complexity of things, just get real simple, like they just make it so dumb, so easy to digest, and it goes right into that void, trying to fill that void like I talked about. And let me say also, you are enough. Everybody's enough. You just need to find, and if you don't feel you're enough right now, then maybe you're not aligned with the things that you should be doing right now on the planet, whatever your work is, your job is, or something like that. And maybe you can, like, instead of watching the news, take that news diet and like take on a hobby. Go do something that, like, speaks to your truth of who you want to be and how you want to express yourself in the world. And by doing that, just watch how, I really don't need the news, and just also understand, like, how the news, like, really puts so much of that fear, that anxiety, that stress, and how it manipulates you to just be, just an unconscious citizen in a world where we need all hands on deck, for sure.
Oh man, I love that. I think that's how we wrap it up, man. We don't want to be unconscious citizens. We want to
we don't. We want to be
alive.
Yeah.
We want to be well. We want to be informed, and all hands are required on deck. And that's coming from the civilian over there. There he is.
This guy.
That's coming from the civilian, and I'm here, the sailor, and I didn't use that. All hands on deck. We need all hands on deck. So
I got that from you, John. I thought this quote was kind of fun. Maybe we can end with this, right?
Yeah, let's go for it.
This is by Chris Jamal in his book called Philosophy. It says, pop culture is a place where pity is called compassion, flattery is called love, propaganda is called knowledge, tension is called peace, gossip is called news, and auto-tune is called singing. So, like, it just really speaks to the world that we're living in right now. And yeah, John, I feel like we're ending on a bit of a downer.
It's all good,
but
it doesn't have to be a downer. I love the news fast. Take stock in how you feel emotionally, and then take a news fast for a week or two and see how you feel, and see how much time you get back. You might actually get time to
How
do
you
it
feel.
like that hobby, right? So who knows? It might just, you may be gaining some positive energy by not watching the news, but also gaining further positive energy by investing in a hobby, investing time and spending that with your family. Maybe growing your business because now you're taking some time to work on your business rather than consuming the news. So yeah, I think that's a good spot to end, man. You want to wrap it up with that closing practice?
Yeah, let's close it out. And this is like, and if you're feeling all jacked up by the news, and you're feeling all that anxiety and stress, like that's what these 5 breaths are for. So you can, instead of being wrapped up in that story and allowing those stories to, create actions based on those emotions and stuff like that, and the thinking that goes along with it, it's like you can break that cycle just taking these 5 breaths when you're feeling that stress and anxiety, and tap into that truth. So we're just going to do just another 5 breaths here and really lean into the experience of the breath. But also, we get to create with the breathing, with our breathing, we can manipulate the quality of our breath, which can help to inform the environment we want on the inside, which for me is like calm, relaxation, and peace. So let's use the breath to do that. So let's exhale out the mouth, completely push all the breath out. Empty, empty, empty. Let's take a nice big inhale, filling the bottom, filling all the way up to the top, and let it go out. Nice and slow, easy, like a parachute, like you're on a parachute floating down to the earth. Again, big breath in. Out. Slow it down, relax, drift softly. In. Out. Two more. In. Out. One more inhale. Exhale. Good. Just take a moment and thank yourself, or maybe take a view of that news diet and get out there. And, if you want to get on social media, maybe take that news diet and just tell people #news diet and be like, hey, I'm going on a news diet, and just kind of, talk about what it's like throughout the week, and maybe it'll inspire other people to go on a news diet. And we can slowly all begin to, tank these news outlets and realize, help them, make them, wake them up to be like how incredibly destructive they've been for us. And maybe they should change the way that you're doing things. And they are slowly. It's like they're waking up. But anyway, Jon, thank you.
Thank you,
always
brother.
Great. A solo show. Congrats on finishing season 6.
Back at you.
Incredible.
And thank you to our audience for getting us here, right?
Yes.
We do this because of the impact that it makes, and the impact that we hear from you that our show is making. So we appreciate you always reaching out and letting us know what you feel about the show. And if this episode resonated with you, and you think that your friends or family or colleagues could learn from it, please share it with them. Share it with them far and wide. And if you're going to limit your social media, hey, make sure we're part of that limit, right? We want you to continue to watch us and listen to us and subscribe to our YouTube. So don't cut us out just yet.
Yeah, all right.
unless you have to, right? Unless you have to. But we sure do enjoy this show. We sure do enjoy you guys tuning in. Yeah. And we thank you very much for what it is you guys do and who you are on our journey. So until next time, thank you very much. And we will see you next season. Wow, next season.
Yeah.
Peace.
July. Yeah, peace, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.